This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
Live. Like I keep joking, the lag that we feel, that we face with these platforms, sometimes I wonder if it's Lando Norris who's actually written the code behind going live. Maybe it's also Max Verstappen because, he's either had some great starts like we saw in Imola or the average start that we saw in Canada. But welcome back. It's been a unplanned break, which is a bit surprising. You see a new face here. Let me introduce you. Hello, Sarang. Good to see you.
It's good to finally be back. Let me just put some context on why I'm saying we're back. Is because usually I'm behind the scenes on the podcast in the years of Kunal, Sundaram, and Somil. And yeah, it's finally happening. We're back after a bit of a break. Yeah.
Yeah. About almost 4.5 weeks or something. But
Yeah.
You said it's good to be back. Well, in your case, it's good to be in the front now, in front of the camera, because you've usually been at the back, like, guys, come on, move on. It's time to go to the next topic.
Oh yeah, and
so yeah. So here's Sarang. Thrilled to have Sarang as a part of the team. Thrilled to have him exposed live on YouTube, on Twitter, Facebook, everywhere. To show people all the energies that go behind. There is also Uttara, there is also Nityanand. There are lots of people who do this, but Sarang is also one of those galvanizing forces, always helping plan live streams. He's also actually a very lucky guy. He was in his car and a tree fell. Luckily, no damage to the guy, just damage to his, I think, the love of his life, or current love of his life on wheels. And of course, damage to one of the rear windows, or no, it was a rear windscreen, wasn't it?
The entire rear windscreen it's too much emotional damage. I don't want to get into it.
But here's the fun part, no? They have to import some parts of it. So you know what? Yeah. Even Volkswagen in India has a budget cap, which is why they are waiting for the factory from Europe to send in. This is like one of those flyaway races. You go and crash your front wing. You got to fly it down all the way from Europe or whichever part of the world.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think the guy at the dealership told me, the workshop, he told me there's some conflict happening somewhere in the world, so the imports are stuck. And I'm like, just fix the damn thing, man, and tell me when it's going to come back. But yeah.
He said there is some conflict happening. That's very political of him. Is your dealer by any chance Donald Trump? Because very conveniently, he's also seeing just one conflict in the world at a time. Okay. He's only seeing conflicts as a way to, win his Nobel Prize. I know we've got a lot of listeners in America. I'm not sure what side of the fence you're on. No prizes for guessing what side of the fence I'm on. But what are we talking about now that we're back? Tomorrow we are going to have the official preview on the channel. We will have a qualifying live stream. We will have a race live stream. Why don't we just address some of the rumors? Is everything okay on the inside line? Has the inside line gone out of action or taken the outside line spun out? No, guys. Honestly, I was moving houses. You can actually see there are lots of boxes in this room. Somil has traded this sport that we love, that I'm going to make a very cliched joke, but he's traded this for rugby. So he's traded this for a sport you need just one ball for. And then when two of us got busy, Sundaram is always deep dive in his stats. So that just saw us, unfortunately, miss out on something that we should have done. And then Sarang, you and I had also planned one of our banked episodes, which the guest actually requested. Can you please hold on to that episode? Because when we actually used segments of that episode before, they were misquoted, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's just a sad thing when that happens. But I've been coming back to it's been a I want to be. The thing is, I tend to get into like expletives when I'm talking, so I have to hold myself back. No, it's been a nightmare of a schedule for the last 3 4 weeks for all of us, in fact. But yeah, I mean, Kunal and I were talking earlier, and we thought we'll flip the script a little bit and have this conversation going with just the two of us. But
Yes.
since we're talking about flipping the script, by the way, our listeners and viewers have awarded you 2 penalty points in the past for missing out an episode, and two for Sundaram in the past for missing out on another episode. I think if we make bring up the tally for missing out on Canada, there's 2 penalty points for each of you. That brings you in contention with Sundaram at 4 penalty points and Samuel at 2. He's just opened his account on that front. Uh, but yeah, I mean, it's great. Now that we're back, there's something I wanted to ask you though. It is that what's been cooking in these 4 weeks in the world of F1? What's been cooking on your journal radar? Can you just tell us a little more about that?
I'll tell you what's actually been cooking. It's the F1 movie that's been cooking. I think the Formula One guys, the marketing people, especially the ones marketing the movies, have planned the launch of the movie extremely well. There's been a lot of hype, lots of celebrities. And Sarang, for once, an outsider is speaking the words of Formula One, is talking of Formula One. For once, there are other people from influential industries taking interest in Formula One, hyping it up for us. Yes, we see that during Drive to Survive, but now this is an even newer audience. This is an audience that's looking for entertainment, walking in, buying tickets, watching it when it is in the cinemas. So that's what's been cooking. I also witnessed, literally a couple of hours ago, George Russell said, my contract negotiations with Mercedes are taking longer because, of course, Max is talking to them and there are ongoing conversations. Now, 2 points to this. First is, it is Red Bull's home race. So very, very cheeky positioning of this to happen. Okay. And the second is, my belief is that this is the Netflixization of headlines as well. Okay. So that whatever season of Drive to Survive we'll have next year has a proper timeline of headlines. George Russell has actually been the one saying, he's the one, and I'm performing so well. Imagine they're still looking at Max, and imagine how Netflix will actually twist these tales when they have to, and rightfully so. Everyone has poetic license. So just unfortunate, but that's the content hungry, content always fueled generation of Formula One, or era of Formula One we live in.
You know what? It's the world of content. We are living in a world of content. We have been for a while, right? And I think we need to get with the programming on just how that content is portrayed. We are informed enough to know what's real and what's not, and what's probably hype and what's not, right? And there's so many conversations we have on a daily basis about it. But if we just stop for a moment and appreciate really what's happened in terms of having this movie out there for the sport that we love, right? I know I went for the premiere with Sundaram a couple of days back, and I absolutely loved it. And the whole auditorium was in a bit of a frenzy, watching their drivers. Even though the drivers possibly, spoiler alert, drivers possibly have a lot less screen time, but even for that, people were hooting and cheering, and it was such a great experience. The sound design of the movie, the way there are pauses in the story, how they bring about the character arc for both the drivers, things like that. I mean, you could be a purist about it, and you'd say that's not for me. But then that's the hat you don't really wear when you go into the movie. Watch it because it's a great movie to watch, and there's always going to be some amount of drama because, well, you also have it starring Brad Pitt, and you know the kind of roles he's taken on in the past. But it's a great watch, man, honestly. And I'm one for it because anything that goes to promote the sport. In fact, you see some of the PR coming out of it. Okay, you mentioned George Russell and his contract. On the flip side, I saw George Russell on Instagram also appreciate the effort Lewis has put in, Lewis Hamilton, on co-directing the movie in terms of the realism on it, right? I was listening to F1 Nation's podcast this morning. It was an interview with Brad Pitt. Um, he also unpacked a lot about what he learned, you know, in the process of the movie, what he learned about the sport and the kind of things that he had to do and go through. So, like you rightly said, yeah, it's opened up the world of Formula One so much, made it so much more accessible, right? And hopefully, we have quite a few converts uh, onto the sport, and then hopefully, Sundaram we were chatting with Sundaram and I were chatting, after the movie. Is like we may not have an F1 race in India, for instance, for a while, but having something like this is the closest we can get, you know, to the real experience.
Yeah. And we've also had the Netflixization of penalty points. Uttara is saying at least 20 points as a whole for missing out on Canada. And when she means as a whole, she means all of us together, which means she, who's an integral part of the team, also picks up penalty points. But you're right. And, we'll talk of penalty points because the FIA has actually released the penalty guidelines and how they review things. And I think FIA should themselves get the penalty for releasing penalty guidelines, because now there is even more confusion on all the penalties that they've given out, including the one to Max Verstappen from the Spanish Grand Prix, when they're like, actually, he should have had 4, but he got 3, so he misses out by 1 for getting the race ban. But going back to the movie, I agree completely with what you said. The fact that they had Lewis Hamilton involved in the direction of the movie, in the storytelling, in making it real. Actually, I think that's what worked extremely well. The racing scenes were fantastic. The wheel-to-wheel action, the G-forces, the braking, the cornering, etc., was all as real as it could get, and that's what we love. Another thing I loved was they're trying to make racing terms as mainstream as possible. I mean, when Brad Pitt was running Plan A, B, C, right? That's a great reference to when you watch Formula One. You will hear what's Plan A, what's Plan B, and then of course Ferrari with Plan C.
Plan C.
And maybe Brad Pitt and Lewis, who back then of course probably didn't know he was going to go after Ferrari, always thought Ferrari's Plan C is Plan C for chaos, and they actually brought that to the movie.
Hey! Don't give it away.
I mean, haven't millions of people already watched it?
Not yet. The official release is today, India time. We're on the 27th of June now. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I will keep that. Okay. Then I'll tell you one more thing. Okay. There was a scene where Brad Pitt is circling through soft tires. Okay. And I love that Crofty and Martin Brundle actually explain why he's got so many soft tires running. They say, he didn't participate in Q3 of qualifying, so he's got all those softs. And you know what happened? 2 races ago, when Nico Hülkenberg actually scored points, he said the same thing. I just could score points because in qualifying, I didn't go through to Q2 and Q3. So guess what? I just had extra sets of softs. Okay. So I love the realism. I love the politics behind it. I love the storytelling. Yes, there's drama, there is ego, there is love, there is lust, there is greed, there is everything that any blockbuster film should have. But Mohammed is saying I haven't it yet, but I presume he means I haven't seen it yet. But yes, so now this is an open invitation for you to go see it and tell us how you liked it and if I actually gave out a spoiler or not. So that's what's been happening in Formula One these 4 weeks. A couple of more things that have happened, more India, Asia specific. Atiq Amir, 10-year-old racer from India, actually signed up with the Austrian GP, which is a UAE-based team in the driver development program. They've got Formula One in their sights. I've known this kid for literally day 0 from when she was born. And she's been incredibly talented. She's on the radar of most Formula One driver programs. Here's one more with Austrian GP. So that's another interesting story that's happened. Then I've interviewed Peter Sauber of course, Sauber Motorsport. This is, I think, the second or the third time I've had the chance to interview him. I was actually trying to get him on the podcast, but then for that, we would have had all to speak German, because he said, I can give you a text interview in English, but I need to be speaking German if I'm speaking on a podcast. And Peter Sauber, of course, commended the recovery that Sauber has made. But I can read out a quote that he gave to me on the great work that Liberty Media is doing with Formula One, with Netflix, and now the movie and so on. And he said, what strikes me is the leap in popularity that Formula One has had since the acquisition of the sport by Liberty Media. He's saying the popularity has increased significantly worldwide, especially amongst female viewers and young viewers, particularly in connection with Netflix. You could say that Formula One has really boomed in recent years. So that's what he said. And my favorite, which I'm leaving for the last, is that Kimi Antonelli chose to not attend the F1 movie premiere, or he couldn't because he had to go to Italy to give his final examinations, which, as of now, we know that he has passed. So congratulations, Kimi. I'm sure his mom is extremely proud. Whether he got that podium or no in Canada didn't matter. He had to go pass that exam.
Yeah. And what a segue for us to talk about Montreal. Yeah.
Should we go there? Do you remember much?
I know a few things. What a weekend for Mercedes, obviously. George Russell on the top step. A podium for Kimi. But we must talk a little bit about Lando and the move he kind of made there. Do you really think he could have made it count on that side of the track?
No, I think no. He probably I think he probably underestimated what Oscar's going to do. Oscar made his intentions very, very clear, very early on. It's not that Oscar pinned him to the wall. Oscar just blocked it. And then Lando got, it's a very interesting part of the circuit because it turns the leftish. So when you keep going left, the walls also keep coming to you, right? And by the end of it, Lando had the run on him, but he realized he ran out of road. And then he realized that, oops, I have the grass and the wall to go into. Of course, he could have used his left foot. Okay. But he said, and my bad judgment. And I like that he sort of took blame or took it upon himself, took responsibility for that clash. But just very unfortunate scenes, because I would love to see Lando versus Piastri while Max Verstappen has an outside chance. That's what I'm here for. I'm not here to see just Piastri walk away with it. Not that it's been that easy for him either, but I would love to see Lando having a better chance. And Sarang, another interesting technical point is one of the things that Lando's been saying is he lacks that feel from this year's car compared to last year's car. And that feel is very, very crucial in extracting those key hundredths in qualifying. And we've seen qualifying has been extremely close this season, right? And, Lando's not extracted the key tenths or the key hundredths, and then suddenly he's 3, 4, 5 places down. And McLaren introduced a new suspension geometry in Canada to actually help Lando Norris feel settled. Now, that's one part which is interesting. But the more interesting part for me is Oscar Piastri chose to not use that part because he said, I'm comfortable with the way it is with this. You got this to help Lando settle in. Why don't you get Lando to use it alone? And that's what Lando did. So despite having a part on the car, which was specifically, designed to get him comfortable, get him feel what he was lacking in that feeling, Lando Norris binned it. In qualifying, Q3, straight lines of chicane, and then we saw what happened. And, on a banterish note, he was also nice. He said, I'm not a champion yet, so I'm not going to put it in the wall of champions. I put it in the wall opposite it, which is the regular wall.
It's interesting that you bring that up because, when I was thinking about what should we really talk about, one of the things I thought is that you should tell me something I should have paid attention to in the last race. And this the inside track of what really happened. So lovely to have that. But yeah, I mean, did Alonso finally get a point in Canada, or was that the race before? Yeah. So I was
He did.
thinking that we
He
should.
was he they got upgrades which sort of helped him get there as well.
Yeah, yeah. I think then now's a good time for us to start a GoFundMe for Aston Martin as well. No offense, I know it's the team you worked with in the past, but it was great. I know I ribbon Sundaram so much about Alonso, even when we were watching the movie, and he was interacting with some people, and they happened to ask him what he liked about it, and I'm like, hey, Alonso's in four scenes. But yeah. What else? What else do we have from the Canadian GP this year? I genuinely can't seem to remember much. It feels that long ago.
Well, one of the things is Lance Stroll, of course, yet again didn't make something happen when he had to, but that's just what you get with Lance Stroll, I guess, right? That you just struggle. But and then of course there was a new calendar that was announced in Canada, and the very fact that there are various races that are going to happen next year, 24 races, one less triple header, and so on. So interesting to see what's going to happen. I think more than 2026, it's a 2027 calendar that will matter, because that's when race rotations come in. And if we actually go back 2 or 3 weeks, what's happened is we had the triple header, Imola, Monaco, Spain, then a gap, then we had Canada, and then a gap, and now we've got Austria. Now, even in that gap, despite such a busy calendar, Sarang, very interesting. Lando Norris, who did not race in Spain because of his broken wrist, chose to do a private test at Paul Ricard in France to assess his readiness for Canada. Okay. Max Verstappen did a road show in one of his older cars in Salzburg for Red Bull. And Racing Bulls actually hosted a road show in Bulgaria. So this is Formula One, where even triple headers, and even after triple header, teams still have cars running somewhere or the other around the world. And it just goes to show that it's never too busy in the world of Formula One.
It's just one expedition after the other, but I think it's great that even when it's non-racing days, that there's always something for us to consume as well.
And honestly, because Formula One was anyway doing so many things, I'm going to let out a secret to everyone that we've all discussed. That because Formula One was anyway entertaining you guys, we said, okay, we can just take this break and come back after the break on the inside line. So that's not the truth of what happened. There's a lot of moving that's happened, and truth be told, this is like a bone to pick. Okay, Formula One is a massive sport. The pace of the sport is brilliant. This new house that I've moved into is just on the other side of Oslo, in a next town called Asker, and a beautiful place. I called up for internet, and they said the earliest date you can get this by is 7th of October. And I said, what? A Formula One car is going to have like 5 more iterations on their car by the 7th of October. Finally, it was this afternoon, after 20 days of moving in, that I actually got internet. And frankly, on the first day when I rang, they said it takes 3 weeks. They actually over-delivered by delivering it 1 day earlier than 3 weeks.
Man, I was actually wondering there for a moment if you got a Starlink package along with your Tesla.
I was very tempted to take it, but the fiber broadband is so good that I said I'm just going to take the fiber, and got a very good deal. The salesperson was really nice. I don't know if he or she was a Formula One fan, but I just got a really good deal, and I said, why not? But we've got Austria this weekend.
Yes. I always feel that the Red Bull Ring brings something spicy to the table. I remember the crash between Hamilton, and it wasn't really a crash, it was a contact, right? that ruined Albon's chances of a podium.
Correct.
In 2021, Norris got penalized for pushing Perez off the track. And then it started a chain reaction because Perez did the same to Leclerc. And apparently in 2023, and I was trying to read up about this a little bit earlier, is that there were 1,200 lap time deletions across the weekend. That's like, what's up with the track limits there?
So back in that race, okay, there are lots of things you've said. I'm going to pace it out. Saumil Arora, who will be here tomorrow, doing a much better job than I am of hosting this stream, normally calls it the track limits Grand Prix, because this is a race where the race is not just between the drivers, it's also between track limit violations, how early FIA detects them and how early they penalize them. Okay, so first is the violation, then there's a detection, then there is they cross-verify the detection, and then there's a penalty. All right. Now, even in the penalty, it's like you get a strike after 3 track limit violations. But what happens if you have 50? Right. So the FIA in 2023 was just lost because the detections that were happening and the violations that were happening were being registered so late. And I remember being in the Viaplay studio, and I normally just sit on the radio channel, the data channel, and the race control channel. And I'm like, why is race control giving me messages of 12 laps before? Like, is there a lag there, or is it just what it is? And then it was realized later that they had not processed everything in real time. And that's what happened in 23. And that's now where the FIA actually uses AI to help them understand track limit violations, detections, penalizing, and so on. So I'd love to see human drivers testing AI yet again in another scenario, but I believe that's possibly ironed out. But I'll tell you the one thing I'm eagerly looking for. You said something always happens in Austria. Haas has put this beautiful video of 5 cars racing up into turn 3, turning right, going down into turn 4, 5, and you're like, wow, that's beautiful. Lando Norris, Max Verstappen last year. We've seen Leclerc, Verstappen years before, Rosberg, Hamilton before that, Mick Schumacher a couple of years ago made some 6 overtakes in a Formula One race at that time. And the reason I'm bringing out all these memories, including the memory when Rubens Barrichello had to give up a win so that Michael Schumacher would take it. I think it was 2002 when it was called the A1 ring. And of course, last year, India's Coach Maini made his F1 debut for Alpine at the Red Bull Ring in Austria. And I was there for Fan Code covering that test. So lots of memories. But again, why am I bringing these up? And I strongly believe in this, Sarang, that if tracks like Austria do not entertain us, then the problem is with Formula One. That track is designed for classic racing and entertainment. It's the shortest lap time on the calendar. There are hardly any corners when you sit to count them. And if the race on Sunday gets boring, it is not the fault of the track. It's a gorgeous track. I normally call this the Wimbledon of Formula One, given how luscious green it is, with all the orange, army from across the borders in the Netherlands coming in to cheer Max Verstappen. So to me, I really hope we have an exciting race. And my final point on Austria, Max Verstappen can still pick up that 1 penalty point and pick up a race ban. Okay. It is actually easier in Austria to pick up a penalty point than it was, say, in Canada, or than it could be next race weekend in Silverstone. Okay. Because Austria just has such corners. Like you mentioned, that lovely right-hander that comes in turn 5. At least that's what it's in my hand. Nowadays, Formula One in this space, that the flat-out kink out there, we're going to give it a corner name, and nobody actually calls it that. So could it be one of the most difficult challenges for Max if he's being attacked, being defended? Will he just let people go, or will he literally do what we've seen drivers and legends do in Austria?
I think he might pull something great this weekend, because honestly, for Red Bull, the team, the pressure is going to be on, right? They need some sort of a banger of a performance. He almost had the podium in Canada. He was P2, right?
Yeah.
And is just the Max Verstappen mindset. I was watching the driver's interview earlier from the weekend preview by F1, and I think he corrected Tom Clarkson on how many times he's won here.
Yeah.
Was it 4? Was it 5? I just think that he's going to be in the right mindset to pull something off this weekend for the team. Speaking of, do you think we've already forgotten about Yuki? Do you think that pressure is going to get to Yuki a little bit to at least put the second car in Red Bull in the points this weekend?
Yeah, I think Yuki's had a quick succession of races, breaks, and now he knows these circuits. And Helmut Marko actually said this a couple of races ago that Yuki actually not doing well is down to Red Bull running lots of experiments on him. We saw Checo Perez actually have his first ever official press interaction where he's saying, I told Red Bull that a youngster will not be able to do it. And guess what? He's also right. Much as Franz Tost was, who was on our show saying they came too early to Red Bull. Although, if you remember, Sarang, Franz Tost said that he believes Yuki is going to succeed in that seat. So will this be that race, or which race will it be by when Yuki settles in and succeeds at Red Bull Racing? Because we'd love to see that. I know we're all hyping up Isaac Hadjar, but for Red Bull's sake, for Hadjar's sake, I really hope it's not yet another talented driver getting an early call in only to be like, oops, we don't know what we've done.
Yeah. No, I think, I mean, the guy should get his due at some point. Maybe this is not the season. Maybe it's 26. Who knows how that turns out, right? But there's also some interesting conversations on the upgrades that Ferrari is bringing, and I honestly that the technical side of it sort of befuddles me at some points. But what do you think? Do you think that that's going to bring some redemption? I don't want to say redemption. Is Ferrari going to redeem themselves at some point in this race, or maybe with these kind of upgrades that they have for Austria?
Ferrari definitely believes that if they qualify better, if they qualify higher, they'll be in a much better, much stronger position in the race. They know where their challenges lie. In fact, everyone knows where their challenges lie. They're unable to go lower in the rear to extract performance from that flow. So they are always looking to bring upgrades and see which suspension can actually make it work. So the rear suspension is usually where a lot of their focus is. So it's about trying to see where they end up with in this upgrade cycle. And it's easy to say it's just one upgrade, but how that upgrade works with other parts of the car is also a crucial part. So sometimes teams actually take a little longer to extract more from these upgrades than otherwise. And on a parting note, if I can call it that, assuming we have gone through most of our points, not that we had points, Austria, for a very strange reason, is not hosting a sprint this weekend, despite actually hosting a sprint every season since sprints were forced into our lives in 2021, which is strange, which is probably Red Bull saying, we're not going to pay you too much money, because everyone who hosts sprints has actually been the promoter that pays more money to have an extra 1/3 of a race, extra 30% of a race for their audiences. But I'm pretty sure we're going to expect packed audiences.
Oh, no, I have no doubts. And you're going to see the canisters of orange smoke just take over the circuit, no matter who wins the race. But I think, yeah, that's quite a bit that we've unpacked. I'm looking forward to some little spiciness that Austria brings. I'm looking forward to that one incident, that one moment that's gonna make it a happening race for us. But yeah, I think that's what we have in store on the show for everyone today. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening and watching. And now that we are back, most of you are watching us on YouTube, but you're not yet subscribers. So don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get notified when we go live. Right. In the meantime, hopefully, our schedules also unravel and Sundaram and Somila back again with their points of view on this weekend. So we'll see you back after qualifying and after the race this weekend in Austria. Good night, everyone.